2 months ago, the Ffestiniog and Welsh Highland Railways was closed down because of the COVID crisis, and we all know the story about that and just how it's affected the nation. We, of course, at the railway have closed down all our operations. All our staff are in a furloughed state, with the exception of a small handful of people working just to keep the basic functions of the railway going. When that happened, we went to you, our supporters and members, and asked for your help. And we've been absolutely overwhelmed by the level of help that we've been given. I received the other day from the Ffestiniog and Welsh Highland Railways Trust, the Ffestiniog Railway Society and Cymdeithas Rheilffordd Eryri a cheque for £250,000. This is part of the funds that you have raised for your railway, our railway, to help us in a time of crisis. And the reason for this little video now on YouTube and social media is to say a huge thank you. I cannot begin to tell you what it means to us, all of us at the railway, the directors, the management team, the employees, everybody who's involved with the railway are so grateful for the support that we're receiving. And I shall get John to zoom in on the cheque so you can see. Not often you see a cheque like that. By way of thanks, and to keep you up to date with what's going on around our railway, I'm just doing a little video for you over the last couple of days showing you each of our engines. I know that all of our supporters ask me via questions on social media, emails, phone calls, even the odd letter saying, "Hey Paul, could I just ask, is Palmerston all right?" Or "How is 143?" and so on. I know you all care and you want to know how our locomotives are doing. So on this spring bank holiday weekend, as a thank you, we're doing just a quick roundup and you can see each of our engines, where they are now, and you can be assured that they're safe. So, starting at the top, Princess, engine number 1. You may not have seen her for 6 months or so since the last vintage weekend. Currently, Princess is safely tucked away in the old engine shed at Boston Lodge. Nice and dry and kept under cover, and she's here mainly so when we're talking to people about the Heritage Lottery Fund application at Boston Lodge, and we're talking about old engines in the old engine shed, then we can show them the first engine in its first shed. So there's Princess, quite happy, still in its cosmetically restored state, although 1 or 2 small parts have been taken off and they've gone to help with the restoration of Welsh Pony. It seems that parts do have a habit of migrating from one England engine to another. Princess. Engine number 2, Prince. Prince is currently stored in the old engine shed in good dry condition, boiler drained out. It has a boiler certificate and could be steamed at any time. So when we do have a chance to run trains, Prince should be there and ready to go. Engine number 4, Palmerston. Palmerston was last seen in traffic at the vintage weekend last year. I don't think it's run since then. Palmerston has a boiler ticket, so is capable of being steamed at the moment. However, there is quite a heavy knock from the chassis, which is caused by some excessive play in the axle boxes, allowing the crank pins on the leading wheel set to touch the back of the crossheads. It's our intention in the next couple of months to have Palmerston in the works in order to give some attention to this, so that once Welsh Pony is in action, Palmerston will be able to take its place alongside. So that's Palmerston, number 4, minor works needed, and all planned for before this autumn. Loco number 5, Welsh Pony. Well, it's only been waiting for 80 years. Hopefully this is the year when it will steam. Watch this space. Welsh Pony is in the workshops now. Next job is to marry it up with its tender and to sort out the draw gear. And also there's a load of work to be done on the spark arrestor and the front end and the final plumbing up. The engine is very close to completion. Like the other engines, needs its steam test witnessing by the boiler inspector in due course. Welsh Pony won't carry its nameplates until the time when all of you can come and watch it and see it being named. Number 7, Taliesin. Taliesin's 10-year boiler certificate has now expired. Hard to believe it's been running for 20 years, isn't it? But I'm delighted to say that thanks to the generosity of one of our supporters who has left a legacy, we have funds available to complete the overhaul of the boiler for its 10-year exam, and funds to work on the power unit as well. So it will be a few months away yet, of course, before we can start that work, but it should be possible to see Taliesin in traffic once again before too long. Lokomotiv number 8, James Spooner. Just sat here now, the boiler, just awaiting its hydraulic test. Just a few jobs to be done before that's complete. And also, rather interestingly, during lockdown, the tops of the domes, the metal spinnings that form the top of the dome covers, have arrived with us here at Boston Lodge. So the guys will be able to make the complete covers by working on those. Obviously won't be in service in 2020 now, but who knows, maybe next year. So James Spooner already has the top end smoke box fitting. The bottom end smoke box components are here. There's the ring there that goes onto the boiler, the smoke box itself, and we've got a couple of doors waiting for fitment. Again, these arrived just as we were locking down. Number 10, Mervyn Emery's, original and best. Well, still sat in exactly the same place as it was 8 weeks ago when I last spoke to you from the footplate of this engine. Mervyn is sat here just awaiting a steam test. It's had its hydraulic test, it's been tested, it needs a steam test with the boiler inspector, and then it's fit for traffic. So it will probably in the coming weeks be tested and moved to the engine shed at some point to allow us to work on some of the other locos. Number 12, David Lloyd George. DLG has been also sat here for 8 weeks, waiting its next turn of duty. Again, Lokomotiv just needs a steam test now, and also needs its bottom end bogie valve settings sorting out. But in broad terms, it's all but ready to go. Lokomotiv number 14, Lyd. Lyd ran its last train in the February half term, and its 10-year boiler certificate expires, well, just now actually, this week. So Lyd is due for 10-year overhaul, and we'll be taking her apart to do a retube, some remedial work on the firebox that's needed, and some work on one of the cylinders. Hopefully it shouldn't be too long a job to do this engine this time, as it's only the first 10-year overhaul, but of course we'll only really know when we get the engine apart. Perhaps we'll include this one as well as an honorary steam engine, Mulwin. Had a bit of a snag just before we closed down, and it needs some work to replace a drive shaft. Not a particularly long job, and it will soon be going again. But when you look for the gear lever and you find it in a red plastic box on the footplate, you know you're not going anywhere. Lokomotiv 87. Well, what a history this one's got, or what an amazing recent history this one has. Outshot in February for the half-term trains, and it ran for a week, resplendent in its new SAR SAS black livery. Painted in this colour because Tim Gilbert, our sponsor of Loco 87, had always wanted to see it in this livery. We'd persuaded him that blue was a good idea last time round, but now we've agreed with him that the SAR SAS logo is the one to have on the tender there in the black African livery. And how frustrating, because we've done all this work, it's run for 1 week, and now here it is stopped in the shed waiting for its next outing. Loco number 130, Peter Best's Bayer Garrett. Very close to completion now, probably 3 months worth of work left to do, and had we not closed down, we'd probably be trial steaming it within these next few weeks. But we've had to stop work for obvious reasons, and hopefully within the coming few weeks we'll be able to start doing some work on it again. It's absolutely essential that Garrett 130 is in traffic for the 2021 season. That's because by that time 143 will have had its boiler ticket expire, and if we don't have 130 operating, we simply won't have enough locomotives. So all efforts will go immediately on to 130 just the moment that we can. Loco number 134, our NG15. I nearly added an extra G in there, it doesn't have one. NG15. This engine has been a long-term project and continues to be so. Next job is to do some work on the axle boxes, and it's getting very close to being put back on its wheels, hopefully for the final time. You never quite know. But this loco is held up due to the COVID crisis, of course, like they all are. But we do have some funding for it, and is some plans to do some work when we can bring our machine shop staff back. For the meanwhile, it's safely stored at Dinas, here in the loco shed. The tender is in the carriage shed, and the boiler is awaiting attention at David Wright's place at Loughborough. Okay, so this is loco number 138, the first of our NG G16s to operate here on the Welsh Highland Railway. And can you believe it? This is now the second time it's come round for its 10-year boiler overhaul. And boy, does this need a lot of work on this boiler. But of course, we have an answer for that. So 138 has done well over 100,000 miles in the 10 years that it's been operating on this last boiler ticket. You may remember that we had a slight problem with the bolts that hold the cow catchers on. And so for its last few months of service, it's run without cow catchers and indeed without the lamps as well. So it looks like a sort of kind of naked Bayer Garrett, really. It looks very strange at the front here as it is. But of course, all that will be restored as part of the overhaul. So just looking along the side here, 138 is stored in the carriage shed at Dinas. Pleased to say that somebody has kindly come along and spread cylinder oil over all the motion to stop those bits from corroding. And well, here we are, the boiler and smoke box both need changing. This boiler's done 20 years, 20 hard years in traffic. The paint's looking a little bit careworn now. Do you remember when it first came out? It looked so shiny in this glorious Midland red colour, and it will be outshopped once again in red when the overhaul is complete, but with a new layer of paint. The cab's fine. The power units need quite a bit of work on them, but one of our big concerns is actually the rear bunker. The rear bunker has got a water tank in the bottom of it that is rotted through and split. It's about £15,000 to build a new one of these, and we're looking at replacing that. It may be that in order to run for the 2021 season, it might run with 143's bunker, painted red, of course. We don't want a multicoloured engine. But the boiler, which so desperately now needs changing, is just here behind us. You may remember that the Puffing Billy Railway acquired a Bayer Garrett NG16 number 129, and they built a new boiler for it. It was a welded boiler to Australian standards, and they didn't need the old riveted boiler. And they very kindly gave it to us, and one of our sponsors paid for this to be posted back to us here in the UK. And it's been with us for probably the best part of 10 years, sitting in a shed waiting to go. And so what we've done is we have, with the help of our members and our supporters through fundraising, we've sent this boiler to David Wright at Loughborough, and he has completely overhauled it, and boy has it had a lot of work done on it. So there's a lot of new metal in the outer wrapper, parts of the throat plate, the inner firebox, and indeed the new front barrel ring. So this whole ring from here forwards has been replaced. It was quite a saga. It has a brand new smoke box as well, so there'll be some work involved in fitting that, as we know from fitting the 12130. But here we have a completely overhauled boiler, ready to go, 10-year ticket on it, which of course is ticking, we'll deal with that. But we need, over the course of this winter, 2020 to 2021, to get this boiler in that engine so that we've got an operational unit for the 2021 season. Loco number 143, the last of the NG G16s. 143 is in year 9 of its 10-year ticket. Hardly can you believe that it's been that long since we changed the boiler on this engine. Time flies by. So 143 has been in traffic already this year, has had its annual boiler exam, and was just about to have its steam test when we closed down because of COVID. So within the next month or so, I would imagine that we'll be warming up 143 to check it over and to get its boiler inspection done so it's ready to operate for the rest of its 10-year ticket. Its 10-year ticket expires in the spring of 2021, so depending on what train services we operate this year, it may not actually see service again. We can't be sure, but hopefully we will see it in action for a little while, but we won't be seeing it for the 2021 season. Number 409, Vellinhelly, has been sat idle at Boston Lodge for a couple of years now. Basically, the engine needs a new boiler, and as you'll see from this shot that John will no doubt editing for us, the new boiler is under construction, but it is a private and volunteer project that only takes place when time permits, so maybe a couple of years yet, but a boiler is on the way for Vellinhelly. In the meanwhile, we keep her all in one piece, so she's available, hopefully one day, to go out on PR tours for the railway. Lilla, number 554, stored in the Heritage Carriage Shed at the moment. The engine has been through its 10-year overhaul now, retubed, all put back together. It's had a couple of test steamings and needs a couple of minor bits of mechanical work, and it's good to go. Number 589, Blanche. Blanche is the last locomotive running before lockdown, and remains ready for service at the drop of a hat, really. It's in ticket and ready to go, save for the usual inspection. Stored in the Loco shed at Boston Lodge, along with its sister Linda. Linda, like sister Blanche, is tucked in the Loco shed at Boston Lodge, awaiting its next turn of duty, in ticket and ready to go as needed. Obviously needing a little bit of attention to the brasswork at the moment, and somebody's been painting the front buffer beam, I see, just as we went into lockdown. Well, number 608, the Baldwin. This wonderful 460 joined us last autumn, has had a couple of trials and steam tests, and the team that look after it are still working on improving its condition, which is coming on in leaps and bounds. So, like the others, awaiting its next turn of duty, but safely stored in the Loco shed at Boston. Hugh Napier. As you probably know, Hugh Napier has been with us at the Ffestiniog for 9 years now. So it's just coming up for its 10-year boiler exam. However, we have a problem because in August it was meant to have its 9th annual exam, which meant it could run through the rest of 2020 and into 2021. However, the tubes on Hugh Napier are very thin, and we don't think that the boiler inspector will let it go through into the 10th year without some retubing. So rather than trying to do that and then in a year's time have another go at retubing it and taking the boiler out, we are probably going to do the 10-year exam 1 year early. So if we can do that, it means it will be available for us to enjoy in the 2021 season when we're all back and enjoying our railway. So can I conclude by just saying thank you once again for your donations. I'm saying that on behalf of all of the directors of the Ffestiniog Railway Company and all of the trustees as well. We really appreciate the donations that you have given. We know it's a very long haul, it isn't over yet, and we could always do with more help. So if you are able to support us a little bit further, we would be very pleased to hear from you. And you can make your donation by following the link which John will kindly post at the end of this video. Thank you.